Look, as much as I love Marvel, I have to say, guys, that's how you do an emo superhero. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is The Batman. The Batman is the most recent reimagining of the Caped Crusader by Matt Reeves, this time focusing heavily on the detective aspect of his character as he goes head-to-head with the Riddler. It stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, and Andy Serkis. So as you all know, this was my most anticipated movie of the year. And I just have to say, if this is what we got by March of this year, I can't even wait to see what we get for the rest of the year. Guys, I can't even begin to convey to you how good of a movie theater experience this was. Of course, I was seeing it in IMAX. I was seeing it with incredible sound, huge screen and everything, but it doesn't matter if the movie isn't good. None of that matters if it's not a good movie. And this movie, for me, at least the experience, was phenomenal. Okay, enough of me fangirling. Let's get into the highs. The highs are everything. Guys, the highs are everything. Okay? And I'm not just saying that. Trust me, I have some other points, but the highs are everything. The look, specifically. The cinematography and the tone of this movie are vastly different from any other Batman we've gotten. The cinematography in general is just downright gorgeous. Every single shot is so beautiful. And I mean, it does have a melancholy look and tone and feel to it, but like, it's like when I talk about Half-Blood Prince, how that movie is so beautiful, but it like looks sad. That's like this movie. Except, I dare say, it looks even better. The colors, the lighting, everything is just perfect, and it feels huge. And like I said, the tone as well is much different because Batman's always been a dark character and a dark series to go with, and with Christopher Nolan, we got even darker, even grittier, even more realistic. This one I was very excited about because it looked like they were going to take that dark, gritty realism, but make it not so realistic that it almost ends up boring or too lifelike. You know, it was going to have some comic book elements in there, and I think that's what we got. And it's really, really cool because the way that they decided to go with it was really focusing on the crime thriller aspect of it, really focusing on the detective Batman. And I'll get to that in a second. But the one thing I really liked about it was that it was a noir. It honestly almost felt like a horror at some points, especially towards the beginning. But they really went with the noir aspect of it. It's quieter, it's more methodic. It is like, I don't want to say slower, it is 3 hours long, but there are some slower parts. It is, and there's the voiceovers. It just feels very, this character is disturbed and he is trying to work through things in this awful city. The Riddler calls it a cesspool of a city, and the noir aspect for it worked perfectly. So this character is disturbed, and he's played by Robert Pattinson. So, you know, I guess that kind of goes hand in hand. Robert Pattinson's Batman, amazing. And I'm talking both on a writing level and on the level of Robert Pattinson's acting. The character is, like I said, very heavily a detective this time. He is in all the iterations we get for the most part, but he just does not feel like an action hero in this one. He feels like a detective who can do more than the average detective. He feels like somebody who is going around to crime scenes, he's picking up evidence, he's thinking through things, he's following clues, and especially that works with a character like the Riddler to have to, you know, find out what he's doing. But he just seemed like the perfect blend of he knows what he's doing, but he's still sort of new at this. It is a very big thing that this is like his first year or two, which in the Dark Knight series, both of them were, you know, for the first and the second were his first 2 years. But in this one, it feels more like he's still learning stuff. And the big thing with him is that he is out for blood, basically, without killing anybody. He still doesn't, you know, kill because that's his rule, but, you know, he may as well with his attitude. He is just, it says in the trailer, I'm vengeance. That's where Batman starts in this one, and I really like his character in this one because it feels like, even though like in the Dark Knight we've gotten Batman having his wits tested and his morals and ethics tested, in this one it feels like his personality and character are tested. Like he learns things. It feels like he has a physical arc throughout this entire thing. But he is just freaking awesome. Like he feels relatable. He feels like anybody could be this guy. He's not flashy, which I like too. Like I said, he kind of is like the detective, and with that, he doesn't fly everywhere all the time, and he doesn't always do the whole like just disappearing thing. He does it a few times, but for most of it, he kind of just walks around, which feels like that would be really stupid, but it works. It does. I can't explain why. It just works really well. He's not flashy until he needs to be, and he does do a lot of fighting. Don't get me wrong, and he's really good at it. But he is just like a person when he needs to be. And speaking of new takes on characters, Paul Dano's the Riddler. My God. When the first images came out of the Riddler and what he was going to look like, I was probably like everybody else thinking, what the fuck? He looks like he's wearing a trash bag over his head. And yeah, he never has I'm gonna let you know now, so it's, you're not disappointed. He never puts on a suit or a onesie or anything like the Riddler does. But if you go into it knowing that you're never gonna get that, everything else is awesome. This character was amazing. I loved it so, because every time he's on screen, you are just glued to what's going on. Like he just commands the scenes that he's in and what he's doing, because he's honestly really disturbing. I have watched so many horror movies and thrillers and psychological thrillers in the last couple of years that I feel like I've been desensitized to this now. His character was one of those that afterward I was actually like when it was processing, I was like, ugh, he's creeping the shit out of me. Like he really does. And aside from the outfit, everything else about the Riddler is for a very, realistic situation, which I was glad we finally got. I've always wanted to see the Riddler in a real life situation. Everything else is there. He does the puzzles and the clues and obviously the riddles, and he has those funny cards, and he has all these like logs with symbols and stuff. He is kind of kooky but pretty smart, and he's very egotistical. He's everything that the Riddler is, just in a psychotic, serial killer situation. And even when he's not in the outfit, because he is in the outfit for most of it, but sometimes he's not, Paul Dano, this is my favorite role by him so much, by far. He just did such a great job. A lot of people are going to compare him probably to the Joker, like Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. Incidentally, they're probably going to compare a lot of this movie with The Dark Knight. It already has been happening for so many reasons, but one of those is going to be the villains, the main villains. And, I can see why. There's a lot of things that they did that are very reminiscent of Heath Ledger's Joker, but I think they separated it enough that you're like, this is a different character. I also just have to mention Colin Farrell as the Penguin. If you had not told me that this was Colin Farrell, I would never have ever known, ever, in my entire life. He looks different. He sounds different. I dare say that this was a bigger change and like disguise on an actor than Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour. Like, I would never in my life have known. He did such an amazing job, purely off the fact that I would never have known it was him, but also the fact that his character was really good. It is interesting trying to do the Penguin in a real life situation, because Danny DeVito in Batman Returns, it was cool, but it was just cheesy because he has penguins following him everywhere. The only real way that you can do a penguin is like a mobster kind of guy, and that's what he was, and he did a really, really great job. But the story overall, I could talk about it all day. There's so many things that goes into this. Like I said, it's 3 hours long. There's so many things, but the action scenes were incredible. I always go, obviously, to superhero movies for the action scenes, but sometimes you're like, okay, this is getting long or whatever. But there's one scene in the middle that I turned to my brother, and we were both just like, that's probably the moment we thought this movie is insanely good, because of an action scene. I thought it was amazing. I don't know why. Maybe it was the sound. Maybe it was just how it was shot. I don't know. I just fucking loved it. Aside from the action scenes, though, the scenes of sheer suspense or even the emotional scenes, there's a lot of emotional crap that happens in this movie as well in terms of people possibly dying, people possibly getting hurt. Okay, I've said a lot of highs. I'll say this. There are a lot of points that I have with this movie that could be middles, they could be lows. I have to see it again in order to tell you for sure which is which. I'm probably going to go see it again in a few days, so I can tell you for sure after that. I may have a follow-up to this video. And actually, I want to do a reaction talk with Jared Smarko on Jared Talk Cinema as well, like we did for Spider-Man No Way Home. And I think that's the next one that we want to do, so I could actually give you some of those thoughts again in that one. But just for the first time seeing it, I do have a few points, and I'm going to bring them up in terms of things I wasn't sure about. So middle elements. It is 3 hours long. This doesn't take away from the movie because everything that is in the movie kind of needs to be there. And there's just a lot that happens, but it just feels so utterly self-contained. And there's definitely going to be more, I think, but it just feels like this entire adventure that you just went on, which was awesome. So it's definitely long, but if you're okay with it, you're going to love it because you're like, I just don't want this to end. I want this, we have this and we have this and we have this. So it just keeps going, which is cool. The next middle I have, and this is probably the biggest one, is that there are a crap ton of people in this movie. I mean, they thought of a lot of villains for this one. And at a certain point, it gets to kind of be like a lot of he said, she said, a lot of back and forth, a lot of, oh, this is what actually happened. No, this is what actually happened. And it can get really confusing, like Dark Knight level confusing. I'm not going to lie. I love The Dark Knight. One of my favorite movies. I don't think I still understand all of that movie because there's so much legal stuff in it, and there's so many like this person's going to this place and we're doing that because of that, and whose motivation is this, and you know what I mean. And that's kind of the same thing in this one, if I'm being honest. I mean, this one's even bigger of a mystery, so it does that like to more of an extreme, I think. So that's why I'm saying I have to go see it again before I can tell you fully if it actually makes sense, because there is a lot of trying to keep track of people and why they're doing what they're doing. My last middle is that there is a theme. Actually, there's a lot of themes to this movie, but there's one big theme in terms of Batman's character arc, and it feels pretty straightforward and obvious and, kind of a regular generic theme. It doesn't feel like anything too new, but it feels new to the character. And because of the noir style, there's like a voiceover, and he like kind of like has these thoughts. It works. It works because the character's never done this before. It is a very basic theme, but I think it was a cool take on the character that they've never actually done with his character, and it makes a lot of sense. So I think it was cool to take that angle and make it fresh with him. So my only two lows that I think are going to be lows are, one, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. This isn't necessarily like all a low, but I felt her acting was kind of hit or miss in this. Sometimes she was really great, and her chemistry with Robert Pattinson was awesome. But then sometimes she puts over lines, and I'm like, I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel about what you said, because it just felt kind of wooden or weird. You said it kind of awkward. Like, there was just some line reads that I wasn't quite sure about. But the only thing that I will say is a solid low is there is one thing at the end, almost all the way at the end, that I was not a fan of. It is a sort of reveal of another character. I'm not going to say what it is. You've probably already found out what it is by this point, even if you haven't seen the movie. But I will still keep it vague just in case. There's a couple reasons I'm not a huge fan that character was revealed. But the biggest is that it just felt kind of cheesy. It did feel like the DCEU version of what they would do with that. And this movie is far beyond that. Get out of here, Snyder, because Matt Reeves is just taking the throne. But that part felt a little weird. I know what they were going for, but there are definitely a couple reasons I did not like it, specifically for what it means for other villains in this movie as well. Again, I can't be very specific about it, but I can talk about it if Jared and I have a discussion on it. You'll know what I mean when you see the movie. So overall, this movie blew me away. It is by far the best movie I've seen in a very long time. I'm not going to say over top of Spider-Man No Way Home, because they're kind of my favorites for two different reasons. That one is one of my favorites I've seen in a long time just because of everything that was in it in terms of what we're excited about as fans, and like Easter eggs and stuff. This one I was excited about it, and one of the best movies I've seen just as a movie. And I don't want to be that person who's like, it wasn't just a good superhero movie, it was a good movie. Like, every superhero movie should be a good movie. But like, other people who aren't Batman fans can probably really like this as well, like they did with The Dark Knight. And I wouldn't be surprised if this got Oscar buzz. I'm not kidding. Like The Dark Knight did. It should. It may not, but it should. For real. It is heavy, it's dark, it's grim. It is, like, honestly, it's not a movie that you can watch every day or every week. Honestly, you might come out of it being like, I'm a little depressed or down, or like, it's very heavy, but it's so good. Like, there were some reviewers I saw who were like, there weren't enough jokes, or it was, it was too heavy. There wasn't enough levity or humor to, get you through it. That's not a critique. Is every movie supposed to have humor to get you through it? I don't remember there being humor in Schindler's List. Like, you know what I mean? That's just a really stupid comment and reason to take away from the movie. Because it's not supposed to be funny. There are some light jokes in there, I'm not gonna lie. There are a few of them. But it's not supposed to be all that. So if they had no jokes, I would have been okay with it. Because that's not the intention. It's not Marvel. Alright, I am having a really tough time on this scoring. Again, because there are some things that I'm not sure if they're highs, lows, middles, whatever. I will give you my definite the next time I talk about this movie, hopefully with Jared. I think for now, because of my entire theater experience and everything that went into it and just how I felt afterward, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 4, making it my next top shelf movie. Even if there are little things here and there that still end up being lows or middles, the experience far outweighs that. Not gonna lie. And it was so fresh, so interesting. I believe that I'm cool with giving it a 4 out of 4. That might change, but I don't think so. I am also going to give it a new award, the Shell Shocked Award. This award is going to be for movies that not disturb me, because that's a lot of horror movies and things like that, but ones that really just get to me, in my soul. Like, you have those movies, like, it can be that they're disturbing or very overwhelming, but just those movies that you come out and you're driving alone and you're just like not scared by jump scares, but like something has unsettled you deeply. So that's what this award's going to be. Others that I can think of that I would probably have given this award to would be Hereditary, Mother, and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Again, they are almost horror elements, but Mother wasn't necessarily. It was more of just a very overwhelming, horribly overwhelming movie. Okay, so last thing. You're probably wondering what I think in terms of who is the better Batman and which is the better movie. Christian Bale or Robert Pattinson, and The Dark Knight or The Batman. I will tell you it is a very hard decision. Because one is probably the best Batman and movie for the neutral idea of Batman, and one is probably the best for this very laser-focused, tonally different imagining of Batman. So I don't know if I can tell you now, and I know that's kind of a BS answer, but I can get back to you on that. I'll have my people get back to your people. So I'll let you know for sure, because I don't know that I can make that decision just yet. Okay, guys, I've talked for way too long. I want to talk about it some more. I will continue to talk about this movie until I die. And that could be me just obsessing over it because I saw it only a few days ago, but I don't think so. I think every time I see this movie, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's why it's one of my favorites. Let me know what you thought of The Batman if you saw it. Let me know if you think it actually meets that hype, or if you think that you were a little disappointed in it for some reason. And let me know who you think is the better Batman and or better movie. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.